Good evening. It's about dark here in Pearisburg, Virginia, and I'm doing an interview here with a hiker that came all the way from Springer, and his trail name is very difficult to pronounce, very difficult to remember, and I don't know where in the heck it came from or what it means. Maybe it's historic or something. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to let you. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you where he came from, when he started down at Springer, and if he hopes to finish this year, and a little bit about himself. So go ahead, take it away.
My name's Acadicus. I got my trail name doing research on owls on Big Bald actually last year. I researched a little owl called the northern saw-whet. Its scientific name is Aegolius acadicus. And I hiked around Big Bald for quite a while with a extension ladder and a pack full of equipment, just looking for owls and researching banding, habitat, nesting rate success. And a friend of mine knew the scientific name as well, and he dubbed me Acadicus, and it's just sort of stuck ever since. So I'm the hiking owl.
Okay, well, that's a very interesting story. When did you start down Springer?
I started January 4th, in the dead of winter. I wanted to see the dead of winter and experience the trail as it went from winter on into spring and then on into summer, and get the experience of how the seasons changed and what I liked about them and what I didn't like about them, kind of pros and cons.
How cold did you get?
I had one night that I don't know the exact temperature, but it was below -20. It was cold. I actually got some trail magic. Some guys packed up some tarps and some firewood, and we got a nice big fire going in the shelter and tarped it off from the wind. And they had 4-season tents, so they opted to camp outside and let me have the shelter to myself and put the tent up. And it was actually a really nice night. It was one of my best nights on the trail.
Actually, I would imagine starting in January that you pretty much had the shelters to yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, there was not many people starting in January, so if I wasn't by myself, there was maybe one, at most 2 other people in the shelters with me.
I know a lot of times in this area, I have seen 20 to 30 or 40 people at a shelter in June, when most of the hikers come through. Most of them start down at Springer right around March 1st or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes here in Pearisburg, when they come through in May and June, I mean, there'll be a lot of hikers in town, and there'll be a lot of hikers at these shelters. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've seen as many as, like I said, 30 or 40 at a shelter. So have you had any problems with your feet or legs or anything?
I've had quite a few problems. Coming into Fontana, I almost blew out my knee, and I was kind of stubborn about it, and I kept hiking on it, and it only got worse, and I ended up taking 4 zeros at the old Fontana Hilton. But it was worth it. My knee got back on track, and I got back on track. I've had problems with my ankles. I've had problems with my feet, just getting blisters and having to take some time to let those heal, but you got to take time to let your body heal, or else you're not going to make it. So
that's true. How'd you almost blow out your knee?
I think I just tried to pick up the pace from my winter pace to picking up the miles a little quick, and I bumped it up from doing roughly 10 miles a day to upwards of 20, and I think the sudden change in mileage just sort of was overworking it, and
okay,
it finally started to give out.
Okay, did you do it? Did you have any downhills during that part of the hike?
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I know downhill you can really tear your knees up and your legs.
I went down into Fontana, which was a pretty good drop, and then, or actually, I went down into the Knock outside of Bryson City, and that's a pretty good descent. And again, being stubborn about it, I did a Nero that day. I did the 7-mile trip down the hill and stayed at the Knock at the hostel there, and was gone again the next morning by about 6 o'clock.
Okay, where are you staying here in Pearisburg?
Staying at Angel's Rest Hiker Haven.
Yeah,
that's a hostel. It's pretty good, I gotta say. Any hikers behind me ought to stop by.
Yeah, I know the folks down there. They are really, really super nice people. And I've had you doing some work here for me this afternoon, and you've done a good job for me.
Appreciate
And
it.
I want to say thank you for that. Now, any recommendations you can give other hikers?
Take your time. Don't unless you obviously have a time frame that you have to stick to. Don't make one for yourself and try and work through the trail as fast as you can. Just take your time and enjoy every day for what it has, and just enjoy it while you're here.
What about pack weight?
Pack weight? I don't even know what my pack weight is. I've never weighed it. I don't like having that demon in my head, so if I don't use something, I send it home, and if I'm using it, then I keep it, and that's my go-to way of
You start off pretty.
pack.
You start off pretty heavy down in Springer.
Oh yeah. I had every piece of winter gear that I could think of taking with me.
And how much of it did you throw out going up the mountain?
None, actually.
None.
It was so cold that I was finding use for everything I had.
Okay, well, if you start down at the right time, going up that mountain, you can find all sorts of stuff alongside the trail that people throw out. They start, a lot of them are not in shape, and, they think they can carry too much, and, they just stuff hanging in trees and laying along the trail and everything. I mean, that's just the way it is. Now, since you started in January, do you hope to finish this year?
I do. January was kind of a way for me to get ahead of the bubble, and at the same time, again, just kind of see the trail in a time of year when most people don't get to experience it, and watch how it changed along the way.
Okay, now, Pearisburg, what, is about a third of the way through, or?
A little over a quarter.
A little over a quarter.
634 miles in.
Okay. Well, the good news is that if you make it to Pearisburg, you got a good chance of making it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I think most people that drop out, they drop out within the first couple of weeks,
The last I heard, it was like 70% dropout by Damascus.
Yeah. So if you make it this far, you got a good chance of making it the rest of the way. Providing, you don't get in a hurry and hurt yourself and all of that.
Yeah, let injuries heal. Don't try and push through them. I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Recommendations? Any more recommendations for hikers or anything?
I think going back to the knee, that's a good one. Is don't be afraid to take zeros to let something heal, and don't feel like you have to push through the pain. If you think something's hurting, then stop and let it heal, and don't let it really truly become an injury that ends your hike.
Yeah. Have you lost any weight since you started?
Actually, I've stayed right about the same. I'll kind of lose 4 or 5 pounds, and then I'll gain 4 or 5 pounds, and I've kind of hovered right about the same weight from when I left.
But you were hiking before you got on the AT.
Yeah, I did a lot of hiking before I got on the AT.
Okay,
The AT was a childhood dream, and
did your appetite kick in right from the get-go?
no, it was probably about 100 miles in that the appetite hit, and I kind of got hungry I was hungry walking into the shelter, and I've been hungry ever since.
Okay. The first little bit, I understand, the first few days or something, most people, they want to throw up, and, they don't want to eat and stuff like that. It's the body adjusting to the trail,
Right.
Did that happen to you?
No, I took it slow.
But your hunger didn't really kick in for about 100 miles, huh?
And it didn't kick in for about 100 miles.
Really?
My pace was probably about 15 or 16 miles a day when I started, but I started on 8-mile days.
Okay.
Just to kind of take it easy and let my body have that time to adjust to this isn't just a 3-4 day trip. This is life now.
Right. Use hiking poles?
I actually have a walking stick.
You have a walking stick, huh?
I found it propped up against a tree outside of Davenport Gap, and I've had it ever since.
I find they really keep you from falling, and they're really handy.
It's a good thing to have in hand.
Yeah. I know when I hike, I use hiking poles that I cut myself out in the forest.
Right.
I mean, those expensive ones. I mean, if you conk a bear over the head, your hiking pole's gone. But if you get you a good hickory stick and you cut it, I mean, You can whap that thing across a tree and it won't break.
Why
It's-
pay all that money for trekking poles when you're walking over 2,000 miles through a bunch of free ones?
That's right. That's absolutely right. That's the way I look at it. And also, you know, if you got trekking poles, you can lose them, you know, set them down. I know I've been out hiking a lot, and I'll set my poles down, even though I cut them out in the woods. I'll set my poles down and I'll put on my pack and walk off and leave them.
Yeah, you won't realize it for 3 miles.
Yep, yep. People do the same thing with cell phones and all sorts of stuff, you know. Have to hike back to find them if they can find them. But let's see. So when do you hope to finish up in Maine?
I really don't have a time scale for it.
Okay.
But if I had to guess, sometime around July or August.
July. Then you're going to have to pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yes, definitely you are. You save enough money for your hike or not?
I saved as much as I could. Probably not as much as I should have.
Right.
But it's worked for me so far. So.
Well, it really depends on how much you spend in town and how much time you spend in town and all of
Right.
that stuff, you know.
I don't like to spend too much time in town. Usually resupply and a good hiker meal at a fast food joint, and
Yep.
off I go again.
Yeah, that's kind of what you need to do if you don't have a whole heck of a lot of money. You can really spend some money out on the trail if you stay in motels every night and all of that.
Private rooms.
Yep, absolutely.
Going
So-
to the bar.
Anybody you want to say hi to back in North Carolina, South Carolina?
The Droog, he went Nobo in 2011. Say hey to him. I got my parents I'd like to say hey to. My brother Steve-O. Yeah.
All right, well, now this is going on my YouTube channel, so you realize you're going to be famous.
Oh, yeah. That's fine with me.
All right, well, listen, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and from the looks of this, I'm watching it as I'm doing it here, and it looks really, really good. I mean, the lighting and everything, so I think it's going to turn out to be a real good interview. So thanks a lot. I certainly
you.
appreciate it, and you have a nice hike the rest of the way through.
Thank you.